Now, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace announced that the UK was to deploy the Sky Sabre missile system in Poland, along with 100 troops to operate it. Speaking alongside his Polish counterpart, he pointed out that the system was the UK's newest medium-range air defence missile and said that he hoped this would send a message to the Kremlin that we will, quote, stand together, stand up for our values and defend our friends such as Poland from any further aggression. Meanwhile, back in Ukraine, officials have said that Russian forces have attacked a theatre sheltering civilians in a besieged city of Mariupol, and at least one person has died after the debris of a downed missile hit a residential apartment in the capital of Kyiv. Well, joining me to discuss all of this is former British Army officer and chemical weapons expert Hamish de Bretton-Gordon. Welcome to the programme. First of all, let's take a step back and let's look at some of the horrendous weaponry that Russia has been using. Some of these weapons that sort of suck the oxygen out of an area that seem to have been targeted at civilians.
Well, absolutely. From the sort of playbook, and as some of your viewers will be aware, I've been very close to the Russians. I've seen them up close in Syria for the last 6 years, where they've sort of been trialling all these dreadful weapons. The thermobaric bomb, the vacuum bomb that you've been describing is absolutely horrendous. It was designed to blow up minefields, not to blow up civilians. But as we're seeing in Ukraine, Putin and the Russians are trying to terrify the civilians into surrender, as they did in Syria. And the more horrific weapons you use, the more likely are they going to surrender. And this attack in Mariupol on the theatre you're just describing is absolutely classic Russian tactics. And I am trying to train Ukrainian civilians at the moment how to survive these horrendous weapons. Now, for one, sadly, writing children outside this theatre was probably the thing that got them attacked, because Putin and the Russians realised if they kill a whole load of children, that is going to terrify the Ukrainian population more than anything else, and probably trying to lead to their surrender. So, in future, although it seems absolutely intuitive to do that to protect them, one shouldn't do it. Equally, hospitals and schools that have been attacked. Now, in a conflict situation like this, the two sides share detailed grid references of where their special sites are, like hospitals, schools, churches and mosques. Unfortunately, in Syria, whenever that happened, those figures would dial directly into Syrian and Russian targeting computers and then attacked. And I expect a similar sort of thing is happening here in Ukraine.
That is extraordinary, that writing the word children outside a place of shelter could well have been what got it attacked. It's just incredible. It's just almost impossible to imagine the barbarity. But as you say, this is not new. These tactics have been going on, particularly in Syria, with Russian involvement for some time. In your opinion, does that mean that other tactics that we saw in Syria, potentially even weapons of mass destruction, might they be used?
Tom, unfortunately, I think it is getting increasingly likely. The playbook that has been absolutely unfolding in Ukraine, so similar to Syria, that each time that you don't achieve your ends, you then escalate to the next level of dreadfulness. And I think the attack in Mariupol is just evidence of that. Now, we know that the Russians are completely bogged down in their attacks in Ukraine, and they haven't moved anywhere for days. This really concerns me. There are two options: either Putin sues for peace with the Ukrainian government, and we have a ceasefire, or he escalates. Unfortunately, the peace thing, I think, is just not going to happen. His mission is to take Ukraine. There's no way he's going to stop now and go. So the escalation to me is a huge concern. And the next thing that he would likely to do is use chemical weapons, because he's seen how effective they were in Syria. The 4-year conventional siege of Aleppo was broken in 13 days by the use of chlorine barrel bombs. And I think the Russians might go that way. We know they have chemical weapons. I'm talking to you from Salisbury, where Putin ordered a chemical weapons attack 4 years ago. I don't think they'll use what we call chemical warfare agents. I think they will use toxic industrial chemicals like chlorine. They've already been preparing the ground with these false flag accusations. And what I'm trying to do is to train civilians how to survive these attacks, because they are very survivable. But a lot of what you do is completely counterintuitive. In a chemical weapons attack, you should not go underground that you would do for a conventional high explosive attack. You need to go above ground. You need to get out of what we call the downwind hazard, the contamination. And you also need to decontaminate yourself as quickly as possible, which may be just taking your clothes off. So I am publishing online, doing loads of lectures and Zoom calls into Ukraine to try and get this information around, because I think if Putin knows that the Ukraine population will know how to react, therefore these dreadful weapons will be less effective, and hopefully then he won't use them. But we're at a pivotal stage, and I fear the future is going to be worse rather than better than what we've seen, and even what we've seen in Mariupol yesterday.
It's so fascinating and so important to say, because if I were attacked by chemical weapons, I think I'd probably get inside, put more clothes on, get underground. You're saying do exactly the opposite. What an important message to get out there to the people of Ukraine. I do want to ask you a question, though, about morale, about whether or not this Russian escalation, these barbaric attacks, these attacks that pretty clearly to many look like war crimes, the deliberate targeting of civilians, might that not backfire for President Putin? Might that not just unite further the Ukrainian people in their steely determination to kick him and his bullies out?
Well, Tom, I very much hope so. And, that is what we must do. I think Putin's greatest weakness is the Russian people. And Arnie Schwarzenegger has put a fantastic video on social media today, trying to get to them so that they are aware of the crimes against humanity, the war crimes that Putin is committing in their name. So hopefully that will galvanize the Russian people to get rid of him. But you're right, the support to the Ukrainian people is absolutely key. Now, Maria, your previous speaker, and a whole bunch of people are talking about a no-fly zone. I shouted loudest for these in Syria, and I'm delighted that Ben Wallace is deploying Sky Sabre to Poland, but I would like to be more demonstrative. I think we should get on the front foot more, because at the moment Putin is calling all the shots. And if we could create a no-fly zone in Ukraine without putting British and American jets in their airspace, by using capabilities like Sky Sabre and other capabilities that we possess, and also giving this capability to the Ukrainians. Because as the president of Ukraine said, and as Maria said, if you close the skies, we are not going to see those dreadful attacks on Mariupol theatre aimed at children. And again, because Putin at the moment seems to think that he's got all the cards in his hand, we need to put the pressure on him, get on the front foot, make him make decisions. At the moment, he's 100% focused on Ukraine and nowhere else. We need to take his eye off the ball, and we need to drag him to the negotiation table to get some sort of peace. Otherwise, we're going to see more the Mariupol theatre in the future.